Good day everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to your third video of Monday. Now this video is going to go over Howard the Duck. I'm going to be rocking with Suicide Masteries for this, as I think a lot of the content nowadays, like my main kind of game, I'm going to be doing like normal masteries, and here in the content creator beta I'm going to rock Suicide Masteries. At least it gives an idea of like top end of damage potential that any kind of champion can get. So far, I've been enjoying Howard the Duck. I mean, the idea around the rotations and creating more Fury buffs, either with going with the auto mashing or going with the standard mashing, is, well, it's up to you personal preference-wise. So far, and I have tried, and we'll just try now to do it, the standard mashing, the kind of the manual mashing, whatever you want to call it. It's been a trial and error. I think a lot of the times, because you're concentrating too much on doing parrying and then kind of mashing to get as much damage in as possible, it kind of feels like you might want to be best off with doing auto mashing, especially because now I'll go into a parry and then try and like mash at the same time. There's a lot to think about. Like, we'll try again, and it's like it is possible to quickly build it up. You've just got to like make sure that you kind of keep an eye on your parry meter as much as possible. So if you don't know, I mean, I'll try and get it into shot, but I'm kind of like concentrating on like not getting hit before. It's difficult to even showcase that before you're like, okay, well, I got to do that, and that. It's like, it's a process. I myself don't do it that way. I just go with the auto mashing. I just find it a little bit easier to kind of work with. Not that there's anything wrong with kind of just doing this. It is quicker. So some of the fight footage you're going to see is going to be a lot slower compared to doing it this way. But at least it's giving you a perspective of going, look, at least with the auto mashing, I don't have to concentrate quite so much on what's going on. There's some good numbers fairly early on. Do bear in mind, I do have Odin, I do have Nick Fury and a few other things, champions as well. And you won't see the footage of the top end of damage that I'm trying to achieve with the pre-fight with Odin until the later footage, which we're going to go over in a second. But just give you an idea of just trying to get that parry off. By the way, the AI is just terrible at the moment. Like, every time I try and do a parry, it's like either it doesn't recognize when it is, or the AI is just a little bit crap when it comes to this. Either way, the build-up doesn't take that long, but let's just show some footage, and I'll just have my kind of like say about this champion. First of all, the 5-star version was actually really enjoyable. I think Suicide Masteries are a better option, especially with the way the champion interacts with bleed. It kind of shrugs it off or doesn't allow that to be on there. So it means that, yes, you're only going to be taking away the poison damage side of things, but it ain't too bad. It ain't too bad at all, especially if you're looking for the top end damage. But an SP3 rotation may be best, only using at least like one of the various SP1 and SP2, if indeed you don't want to get the recoil damage. And recoil damage is probably going to be the thing that's going to be the most frustrating for you. But apart from that, I like the champion. I like Enervate, or whatever it is, whether when you kind of power control, which is good. I've had that being really, really effective, especially to be a counter to the likes of 6.3.3 Havoc boss, or any other champion that seems to build themselves. If a Havoc is building power gain, and also you need a champion that's got class advantage, and as well has an armor up buff, you've got a great option there. We're going to see some footage of that in a moment. But I really do enjoy this champion. The mash side of things, yeah, okay, yeah, it's a means to an end. It is very helpful, and I would say it is advisable to kind of link that in, especially with SP2, 80% chance to inflict suppression debuff, reducing critical combat power rate by 10% for 4 seconds. Mash, additionally, hits can inflict additional suppression debuffs. But again, it's kind of a case of like, mash. Do you do auto mashing? You're going to auto mash whilst it's going in, or are you going to be more concentrating on the likes of the auto mashing, which again is up to a player perspective of what you enjoy doing most or least. And now what I thought we'd do is just play off some footage and just kind of talk about it. As a lot of you know, as I said at the start of the video, I am now for this particular video running Suicide Masteries, and it will be probably something I'd run in the future. There's also something else that I didn't talk about, and that is the armor break function. And I was looking to put that in. In this particular example, this footage, I'm trying to concentrate more on parry and hit through and heavy. I've got auto masher on at the moment, but it's like, again, it's an option for players if you are thinking to yourself, okay, well, I want to apply some armor breaks, I'm just going to do some straight up armor breaks. We're going to try and see if we can build that up to help ourselves when we're putting more damage in. Now this one I think went a little bit better when it came to like the AI response, and sometimes the AI can respond really terribly when it comes to stuff like this. It is a bit boring doing this method of the auto mashing side of things. Maybe it's better if I kind of stick to the normal mashing, especially from a point of quick build up, because that's another thing as well. It's all about quick build up. I'm also in this setup not running the Odin synergy with I'm running Odin's aptitude, and as well kind of trying to utilize any other champion within this. But so far so good, except for being hit. By the way, that's good that I did get hit in this particular example, because if you do get hit whilst you're stunned, you still will build up fury attacks, which is okay. You can take a few hits now and again, and especially when it comes to showcasing an exhibition for this particular example. Other things to mention about this champion? Nothing really. Before, I wouldn't even kind of like have any inclination to run this champion for anything, but if I'm looking for a champion that doesn't only build fury, also has an armor up buff, and as well has armor break, that can be really helpful, especially with interactions. If for whatever reason a variant requires you to have an armor break champion, then at least to say that this is an example of that. And I got a little bit kind of like put out, as I was saying, oh, he stuns. If you manage to get your perfect in, you get to have that passive stun, which has an increased length. And there's some good numbers on, especially if you build yourself up close to or on the 50 Fury mark. Now for me, what I'm trying to do is just do the parry in heavy. Again, it's, for me, in this particular example, it's always all about building those armor breaks, and as well trying to build up a little bit of damage. Oh, that's some nice crits there. Every crit seems to hit in around about 10 to 15k. Also with the with the Furies hitting about 7k standard, which isn't too bad. I'm now throwing up some footage of the Havoc interaction, which is great. This has got, and I think I had to like pause the screen because I was thinking to myself, what is that? And it's Quack Fu. So Quack Fu pops up and it helps with the critical resistance, which is great. That's fine. But this was actually really good. Because the champion has armor breaks, it means that I'm not going to be taking a lot of the plasma-based damage that usually comes from the enjoyment of Havoc interaction. This is the 6 point, I'll take some hits there. This is 6.1.6, and I would say this champion is great for 6.3.3. If I wasn't strapped for time, I would be able to kind of like showcase that. And maybe I'll go back in a future video where I kind of go like, okay, this champion is sick for this. But we get that lovely I think it's the suppression debuff there, which kind of like stops any kind of power gain, which is going to be really handy for any interaction you have with Havoc on anything that builds up his power. Again, with this one, I'm not rocking the Odin synergy. Before, against Winter Soldier, I think it was 126 hits in order to down the champion, and then what I'll do is put on the Odin aptitude buff when it comes to the next example. So we're just going to do our thing here, do a little bit of evading, and maybe it would have been best for me to try and build, because that's the difficulty of building those Fury buffs with a champion that predominantly doesn't stun particularly well. But I still managed to do and build something. We throw off an SP3, and again I get surprised because I get a passive stun. Very handy in this particular example and interaction, but still, you know, yeah, oh, SP2 man. I must have done this because it's on my path a lot more. Like, I must have done this so many times. But yeah, you've got to get a good intercept in, feel confident, feel positive, up the SP2, bang, and then on the counter, hit through. Lovely. This particular example coming up with the Winter Soldier, which is on the screen now. This one is rocking the aptitude buff, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. And as well, we've killed off Nick Fury prior to this fight. This is going to be the main thing about building up. Now, I'm playing this very differently. Before, it was a case of doing parry heavies in order to build the armor break on the enemy. And as well, I was trying to kind of like slowly build up my Furies. This one's different. I'm just trying to get the parries off, hit through to build the Furies as quickly as I possibly can. And so far, so good with that, because I think we're up to like 30 Furies already. So it's a good, quick start with this. It's good and consistent. I will try to throw some parry heavies in a minute, but I think the main thing about this is building as quickly as possible to the top end of Furies and trying to do as much damage as possible in, you know, the quickest amount of hits, especially with 126. I want it a lot less than that. Is there a different method to playing this champion? I'm sure there'll be several coming up, but that's how I'm rolling at the moment with this. I like to build up those armor breaks, especially because I think this is going to be a really good champion for those instances where an armor break is going to be something of a key importance. I have the sneaking suspicion variant 7 is going to have something similar, where if you've got hashtag hero champion and you have to do armor breaks, it's going to be very, I don't know, needed for it, especially with some kind of nodes. Not to say that, because I think it was like Overlord or something, or Tyrant, one of the two from the hashtag villain example. I still get perplexed by that, but we get the long stuns at the end of this particular fight. There's nothing huge about this. This is a 565 version, but still, I enjoyed this. I like the idea of this. It's low hits in order to kind of get the champion down. And again, this is with Suicide Masteries. I'm going to try, and as I'm showing, I'm not trying to throw off too many SP1s or SP2s. It's a case of like trying to keep as much health as possible, because we have to bear in mind this champion needs to be sustainable and have survivability for your grind. So even though saying Suicides are great, Suicide Masteries are fantastic, it's still this kind of like thing that weighs on your head. Like, I don't want to be spending countless amounts of health potions and revives on a champion that's theoretically going to be down on its health very, very quickly. But still, this is a means to an end, and this works relatively well. 93 hits so far. I am going to pop off an SP2, 21k to begin with, and I think that must have been about like 50. I will count that back up. I'll probably put it as the thumbnail of the title and just going like, that's huge. That's a huge SP2. And all those hits kind of mounted together, you know, could be at least about 70,000 damage off an SP2 at the top of the ramp up, which is incredibly impressive. So yeah, that has been a little video on Howard the Duck utilization of the Odin and as well Nick Fury synergies, which, you know, aren't completely ridiculous, but still, it's all good. What are your thoughts on this champion? Put it in the comments down below. Is it a case that you like or dislike Howard the Duck? Seen a lot of positive vibes for this champion. I've got a quick video to make, and then I'll be making a Crossbones video, I think, tomorrow. I want to try them out in a few things first before kind of giving my my full thoughts. But apart from that, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far. Thoughts in the comment section though. And also make sure to catch up some other content that's located up there, and I'll see you later on in the next video. And I'll be trying to live stream tonight. I need to do 2 more paths of 6.3.5, then hopefully doing 6.3.6 tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Depends for time though, because time is very tight before the new update. So yeah, lots to talk about and post. See you soon.